Oh, I should be a California tourism ad because I love this state so much.
And that's how the California tourism industry died. First, let me start off by saying that everyone, including myself, who managed to sit through this interview on Jamie Lima Kern Lima's podcast and listened to an hour and a half of...
And one of my favorite parts was just reading so many letters and posts and messages of little girls.
Deserves a medal. Because let me tell you, listening to a 50-year-old woman's helium-infused baby voice was an exercise in torture. And don't even get me started on her use of the word like.
And like.
Seriously, I wondered if this woman, like Meghan really, and Harry, suffered from some form of arrested development, especially when I listened to this clip.
And then I remember one of my aunts called me and she's like, "I'm so sorry, are you okay?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I heard that you and Meghan were in a huge fight."
Your aunt, who I'm presuming is elderly, has to check in on you, a 50-year-old woman, in such a frantic state because she heard you had some fight with another woman? And mind you, Jamie used to be a serious news anchor. What, they didn't teach her how to tone it down and speak with more authority and more depth and without that creepy Cheshire cat grin plastered on her face? Oh wait, looks like they did.
Oregon. Jamie Kern, the 10 o'clock news.
So this was a deliberate choice on her part. Nice to know. By the way, I promise you that Meghan would not have gone near Jamie with a 50-foot pole 20 to 30 years ago because she was a literal Baywatch babe. I mean, not an official member of the cast, but I'll explain. And a beauty queen. In the 90s, she won a Baywatch college search competition, which had her featured on the show. And she was also Miss Washington USA in the year 2000. So yeah, not exactly Meghan's cup of tea, knowing how insecure Meghan is. I mean, the woman didn't even have a maid of honor at her own wedding. Unless Jamie was a billionaire all the way back then, which she wasn't. But Meghan would have made an exception for that. We know she has a penchant for the billions. Some quick background on Jamie while we're here. She's clearly a woman who, very much like Meghan, adores the limelight, adores the cameras. Aside from her stint as a Baywatch beauty queen turned reporter, she was also a contestant in the first season of, in my opinion, perhaps one of the worst reality shows. I've never really watched it properly, but I know enough about it to have ever existed. Big Brother. Then she got married and co-founded IT Cosmetics with her husband, Paulo Lima, in 2008, before selling it off to L'Oreal in 2016 for $1.2 billion. I told you, Meghan Markle has practically started a billionaire collection of friends on her shelf. Speaking of her husband, since I've kind of gotten used to Meghan's posse not really being self-made and always having a successful man behind them or maybe being born into a wealthy family, I decided to look into him a little bit just to make sure. Turns out he's a successful entrepreneur in his own right. He graduated with a BBA from University of Michigan, and he later earned an MBA from Columbia University, which is also where Jamie earned her MBA from, so I'm guessing that's where they met. Early in his career, he worked on Wall Street, focusing on mergers and acquisitions at various firms, including Credit Suisse and Peter J. Solomon Co. So by the time they started the business, he was obviously very financially savvy, if not loaded. So I'm not sure about these rags to riches stories. Of course, Jamie has one of her own. Honestly, covering these women has just turned me into a cynic. According to Amazon, she's authored a couple of books that seem to have done quite well, according to ratings at least. But honestly, and I don't want to offend anyone, all of this life coaching, self-help, guru BS, I'm just not buying it. It just seems like snake oil to me that is being peddled to prey on vulnerable people who are experiencing lows in their life. But that's just me. Although the way she was shilling her book on her show and using Oprah like she's some deity.
I am so excited for this book. You know why? Because it's going to save so many people. It's going to save people.
Imagine, what would you do if you fully believed in you?
What's going on with this woman? Isn't she supposed to be a billionaire? Why is she acting like some cultist salesperson who makes a living off of commission? And oh my God, there's an audio sample, which means there's an entire audiobook read out in her voice. Whatever you do, don't click on that. Trust me, I tried. And because having billions is not enough, she is also a speaker with AAE. So why not just drop 50 to 200K to pay for the honor to listen to Jamie speak? Honestly, I'd pay that much money to never hear her voice again. But based on the insane amount of self-promotion in this episode alone, and I'm presuming this is her usual format, I'm not about to check her other episodes to find out, I'm not a masochist. It became clear to me that much like Meghan and the rest of her billionaire or, self-made female founder clan, Jamie is cut from the same narcissistic cloth, and this mutual showing up for each other's podcasts is nothing more than a business transaction to benefit both of them. Quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Because I am almost certain that if it weren't for Meghan's royal husband on the one hand and Jamie's billions on the other, these women wouldn't have the time of day for each other. It is an understatement for me to say this, but I have no other words. This episode reeked of the level of fakery you'd see in teenage girls in high school, I guess, a la Mean Girls. Except you've got two middle-aged women in this instance, one of them pushing 50.
You made me cry. Good thing I have no makeup on.
You look so pretty.
You look exactly the same though.
And as someone whose parents aren't too much older than Jamie, let me tell you, it was incredibly disturbing to witness. You want to see what Meghan really thinks of Jamie, by the way? Check out the look of pure contempt on her face as Jamie talked about building her own business. And now compare that to this look, which she sports while she is being praised. And she actually expects us to believe that she did this interview with Jamie because
it's you.
Now, let me warn you, this isn't necessarily a recap of the entire episode. I'm not going to be going bit by bit, debunking the various lies coming out of Meghan's mouth. We've been there, done that, and I'm sure other people have done a great job of doing just that. Today, we're going to focus on one big major problem with Meghan that I am surprised her PR team hasn't tried to address yet. Or if they did, perhaps she's not listening. In the episode, Meghan goes on and on and on and on about not wanting to play the prove it game.
To prove that you're enough, you have to prove that you're pretty enough, you have to prove that you're smart enough, you prove that you're a good wife or a good friend. And I was like, I am just so done with the prove it game.
This would be laughable if it wasn't so darn tedious. Who are you trying to convince, Meghan? It's child's play. Anyone with half a brain can see that this entire episode in itself was all about clapbacks, all about proving your critics wrong. We've got to clap back to the bullying and mean girl allegations.
You are such a big proponent of women, of female founders.
Yes.
We've got one for her decision to not film in her own kitchen.
You know, when people are saying, why wouldn't you film this in your own kitchen, at your own house? There's a crew of 80 people.
Yeah.
Then there's one that's clearly meant to respond to the fact that she can't cook.
And I've seen all the beautiful stuff you make, and it's just like it's in you. You just like make these things, and you and I were raised with TV dinners on TV tray.
Yeah.
And somehow it's like in you.
You know, initially I was really rolling my eyes at how Jamie was talking about Meghan like she was some master chef. But then when I saw the photo of Jamie's attempt at a charcuterie board, I kind of understood. Anyways, back to the clapbacks. We've got one about what a lazy
grifters
she is.
It's just, what has she been doing? Does she work? As opposed to, oh my gosh, I work so hard and I appreciate what hard work looks like. I like working hard.
Then there was one which I think is either about, again, the bullying or mean girl behavior, or how she apparently has no qualms with bullying little children, like Charlotte, right before her wedding.
Someone else's kid falling on the playground. Tons of people there. You're the first one to run over there. You don't even think about it. It's like you're over there, you're taking care of that child, like right away. I've seen you do this in multiple places.
And it goes on. And Jamie isn't the only or first one to do this. In fact, Meghan's entire public career over the past decade has been primarily, if not solely, clapping back. Well, I should say primarily, because there was also the grifting. There was the Oprah interview where, amongst other things, she had to clap back and say that it was actually Kate who made her cry. Literally every single episode of Archetypes was dedicated to clapping back at criticism that she received in the media, such as being difficult.
You're allowed to set a boundary. You're allowed to be clear.
Yep.
It does not make you demanding. It does not make you difficult. Makes you clear.
The Harry and Meghan show was a 6-hour clapback marathon.
Orchestrated reality show. Yeah.
Meghan's entire Netflix series with Love Meghan had her guests singing her praises one after the other.
Thank you for loving me so much.
That wasn't all purely to stroke Meghan's ego, which admittedly is as fragile as a 300-year-old porcelain set. But it was also to clap back, to prove that she's not the mean, nasty, lazy, selfish bully that she herself has made herself out to be in the public eye. I mean, I feel like I'm talking about Blake Lively here.
We can clap.
Because the truth is, she's not a great cook, and that's fine. She's not a girl's girl. She is lazy. She is out of touch.
So yeah, carving that out and not saying, no, I can't go to New York. Yes, you can go to New York. And still all the rest of it will be there and you can still hit your deadlines and actually you might hit them even better.
I mean, sure. If you have a title and millions and nannies and no real job or commitments. Even literally today, as I am filming this, she had to clap back via People magazine, of course, is there any other, about her use of the HRH styling and her royal title. I'm not gonna risk what brain cells I have left after listening to this episode by going through this drivel, but I do have a video all about the titles, which I'll link up here in the cards if you're interested. I worked very hard on that one. There was a lot of research that went into it, and I think you'll learn a lot. But in summary, the HRH styling was a gift, and it can be revoked without Parliament should the king or the reigning monarch choose. And also the use of HRH and that gift package that she gave Jamie was in clear violation of the Sandringham Agreement. Now you could split hairs and play devil's advocate and say that she gave it to her friend in private, but come on, who are we kidding? We all know that everything Meghan does is calculated for public exposure. Remember how she used the word daddy to pull at the heartstrings just in case the letter leaked? She's just so transparent, she might as well be made of glass. And that's why I found it so ironic and laughable when Jamie says,
Getting to know you for who you truly are is like, I want people to see that.
Yeah.
well, I've got news for you, Jamie. You're a bit late to the party, honey. In fact, I would say almost a decade too late. Because for many people, the cat was out of the bag, or at least the alarm bells started to sound, perhaps faintly, all the way back in 2016, when Meghan's social media baiting attempts at getting attention failed, and so she resorted to threatening Harry and forcing him to release a public statement acknowledging her as his girlfriend. And of course, attacking the public and the media while he was at it. If people missed that, which I did because I was a kid at uni and I didn't care, there was the 2017 engagement interview, which I certainly did not miss. What with all the mask slips, the saccharine delivery, and the feigned naivety that seemed entirely at odds with a woman of her age and experience.
Was he nice?
And if not that, then there was her wedding, which apparently billions tuned in to watch, including myself. And we noticed her robotic demeanor and the complete absence of any family members from either side apart from her mother. Which, by the way, speaking of getting to know the real Meghan, was clearly a deliberate choice made on her part to avoid just that. Because if no one at the wedding knows you, then there's no real risk of exposure, is there? But little did Megsy know back in the day that by then even, she'd already done an excellent job of exposing herself. No help from her family members needed. Those weren't just church bells we were hearing at that wedding. They were alarm bells. And from the look on Queen Elizabeth's face, she likely already knew it too. I'll end off by saying this. Once upon a time, when Meghan was an unknown entity, all of these tactics that she is still employing, the fake it till you make it, the lying, the conniving, the manipulating, they all worked because she flew under the radar. Now that she's famous, the very tactics that saw her climb all the way to the top in record time are sinking her. And shows like this, where out of touch elitist billionaires sing her praises and tell us what an amazing person she is, are only doing her a major disservice. And as I mentioned earlier, it astounds me how her PR team hasn't caught wind of this. Or she's just not listening, like I said. Because rather than winning the public's adulation, which she so desperately craves for some reason, I mean, talk about insecurity. They talk a lot in this episode about being worthy and being whole when we just had two vastly insecure women trying to convince each other that they're worthy. But all of this praise that she publicly receives from her billionaire posse shows us what a two-faced, opportunistic person Meghan Markle really is. And yes, I'm going to call her Meghan Markle. Stop trying to make Sussex happen. It's not going to happen. There's this contradiction, and because she's been in the public eye for so long, we know which version is true. At some point in the interview, Jamie says,
And it reminds us that each of us is fully worthy, fully enough, and deserving of love and belonging exactly and authentically as we are.
Okay, so is Meghan's father not worthy of being spoken to and being seen by his own daughter? Is he not worthy of seeing his grandkids? Her in-laws, are they not worthy of seeing the grandkids? Is Catherine not worthy of being uplifted as a woman? Because that's apparently what Meghan's all about, right? And therein lies the problem. She insults our intelligence by thinking that we aren't going to notice the glaring discrepancies between what she says and what she does. And then she wonders why she's so universally despised and ridiculed. Not the sharpest tool in the shed, is she? And that's why her PR team needs to get her off the air pronto. Because the longer she's in the limelight, the more we can see through her and her BS, and the more people dislike her and call her out. And if her PR team sucks, or if they're just using her for money and do whatever she wants as long as she pays them, or if she won't listen to them, then speaking of the prove it game, she's only proving that she really has no real friends in her life. No one who actually cares about her. Because all these friends, the Jamies of the world, they're all parasites, just as she is, using her and her infamy to generate clicks and views and sales, exactly what she accuses the media of doing when they use her name in their headlines. Because if they cared about her, if this Jamie woman actually cared about her, then they wouldn't be playing along with this never-ending prove it and clapback game that's been going on for the better part of a decade, and which is clearly not working. Instead, they'd advise her to lay low, go under the radar for a while. Although, at this point, unfortunately, I doubt even that would work, because it's been almost a decade. It's too late. The damage has been done. We have seen the real Meghan because she's shown us the real Meghan, and we really do not like what we see.